Shutting down the national grid in Nigeria can have significant impacts on the economy and population levels. When the national grid are shut down, it can lead to power outages and disruption in industrial activities, businesses, and households, affecting productivity and economic growth. This can result in financial losses for businesses and reduced income for individuals, ultimately impacting the overall economy negatively. Now, furthermore, during power outages, many businesses and households resort to using generators, which are often powered by fossil fuel like diesel or petrol. Increased use of generators during grid shutdown can lead to higher levels of pollution, due to the emissions from these fuels. The increased pollution can have detrimental effects on air quality, public health, and the environment. Welcome to Inside Today. I am Jumai Manson. I am being joined by my colleague, no other than Michael Adikan. The program continues shortly. Stay tuned. You're welcome back, and if you're just tuning in, this is Inside Today on Global Television. And of course, I am being joined by my colleague, Michael Adikan. How you doing?
I'm very well, man. Good to see you.
Good to see you. I know you've been...
because of the weekend and all of that. So, a pleasure to see you right here.
Of course. It's always good to see you. I'm always elated when I see you.
Thank you.
And I'm looking at it critically. I know you were you were there, the labor ground.
Yeah, absolutely. They've started the strike, indefinite strike.
Oh,
but
wow.
This time, not a warning. This time is an indefinite one for Nigerian workers.
Okay.
It even started last night. The issues of blackout and all of that.
Exactly.
So they were sending out some of these workers by force from different substations, and this is why we are actually experiencing a blackout right now in not just Abuja, everywhere in the country.
Yeah, and that is why we're taking it on this particular angle when it has to the shutdown of the national grid and the impact in which it has on individuals and, of course, the Nigerian economy at this time. We all know what the Nigerian economy is talking about. And then, of course, let's just take it mildly now. You know, a basket of tomatoes that you buy at the rate of 30, 40,000 naira, if you're lucky, sometimes 20, is now 100 plus. And then the bin, the little one, that 15,000. So you can imagine what is happening now that the grid is practically shut down. Electricity, which is a norm. Now, no one is talking about the ban A, ban B. Don't even talk about it now because Nigerians are feeling this particular issue that is on ground. Now, let's look at how does this shutdown of the national grid impact access to electricity for business and households?
It has been a very crazy one for the fact that ever since the increase of the tariff, it has been a battle of electricity. Nigerians have to pay from their nose to have light. So for us to have a shutdown of the national grid this time due to the issues of our NLC and the federal government, a warning for them to, review their minimum and living wage. This has actually given, another dimension of the experience we will have in electricity because from last night up till now, it has been a crazy one. And the strike is not even looking at something that federal government will immediately get to call off right now. So it means that if it's taken 1 week, we're going to have blackout for the next 1 week. So the national grid is, has the storage of all of these electricity that we'll be getting. So it is a well-start one for businesses because the moment where some of these businesses were surviving on their preservation, like the tomatoes that were preserved by freezers and all of that. So how many people can afford diesel right now? So as to go back to diesel, just to power. How many people can afford the fuel right now? It's about 670, 680, almost 700 now in some stations. So a lot of pressure right now will be on the market. And the moment where some of these traders are forced to, spend more to preserve, it therefore has a ripple effect in the prices in the market. Because right now, if you are able to buy, I think the measurement of the small tomato,
which is 1,000 naira,
about 1,000 naira. So right now that we were gonna have a shutdown by the national grid, given the electricity for homes and businesses, it therefore means that will be sold at 1,500, 1,800, almost 2,000. So you're putting a lot of pressure on Nigerians. What the federal government does not understand that their actions or inaction sometimes always have effect on the people and the businesses. So right now we are faced with the issue of national grid right now. So businesses are going to suffer, homes and families are going to make a lot of pressure, and then even the workers, what they were earning, will now spend more to get fuel, to get diesel. Ways of resorting to other things just to get electricity. So a lot of pressure is right now on the businesses, because just in a day, today alone, if you look at the end of the day, you see the breakdown of the losses of businesses because of this issue of national grid.
Exactly.
And you'll be surprised by what this has really caused on us. So it is a sad one for federal government not to have managed the situation very well with the NLC, which has given
and you know what, Edikan, getting to this point, now it's now, of course, we know it was 30th of May. That was when this whole thing. But now it's 2nd of June. That means they're serious. It's not even a warning strike, but an indefinite strike. Not looking at smaller businesses who are thinking to themselves, okay, fine, unemployment, we cannot have, there are no sources of labor and employment in our country. So let's just start a small business. So how do you think this power outage will affect the small businesses in which we have in Nigeria that are trying to survive in this present Nigeria economy?
One may begin to wonder what federal government means, understand by creating a conducive environment for businesses. These are the actions that sometimes threaten, businesses to go off the market and some people to close down. So the SMEs, people who are just in a bit of on their own trying to add to the economy of the nation, are forced to go into undue pains and pressure right now, because the moment where we are having a national grid, you've not even been providing good electricity.
Exactly.
You have been battling with 12 hours, you're battling with 18 hours. There's no way in this country we've had 24 over 24 for 1 week. So we are still battling with the issues of sufficiency of power. So now that you're total shutdown means that people were even having 5 hours a day, people that were even having 10 hours
and getting used to the fact.
And getting used to that fact and adjusting their businesses as of that, then now having none will be forced to even go out of the market, because when you look at demands, even loss of demands on supply, a lot of businesses that are using power has to do with preservation. For instance, people who are stocking their goods and stocking their stuff.
Like the frozen food people that sell chicken, the people that sell
fruit and all of that. So how would these people get to sell off? It's not something you just sell off in a day. It's something that sometimes it takes a week before you can be able to sell off. So right now that you are given this national, the lockdown of the national grid, how would these guys be able to sell off what they have? And would they not run out of, run into loss right now in their businesses from whatever they imported? These are the people that spent a lot in importing those goods back to where they are. And now that you're being faced with the reality of trying to preserve what they got in the market. So a pressure for businesses. Businesses in Nigeria has been a very tough one for people who are practicing.
Yes, it has
and even
been.
when the speaker was speaking yesterday with the delegation of NLC, he said why the federal government are not moving away from 60,000 is because this will also mount pressure on the private sector. So according to them, if they move behind the 60,000 now to other figures, it may have a ripple effect on the private sector and all of that. Good and fine, we understand that, because the moment where we now have 100,000 naira minimum wage, therefore means that you compel all the private sectors and all of these people to also obey the decision of the federal government and also go in that line. So we understand that reality. But at what level are you making things works for Nigerians?
Exactly.
Look at, creating environment. Look at issues of CNG buses. They told us also that before May 29 that the issue of CNG buses will be issue of the past.
Exactly.
So we are still facing with high cost of transportation. So now that you are away from transportation, we are now being faced with what to get to preserve our food. Preserve whatever we are selling. Preserve. For the market traders to be able to have what to hold on to. So at the moment now means that people are doing business on their own without the support of government. But these are the same government that will bring taxes to your shop. These are the same government that will bring compel levy on you to be able to. So surviving in businesses in the country has much faces in the country. And right now that we're having this national grid, is a total messed up for businesses.
It is. Like before we a little bit deviate from this particular issue when it comes to businesses, the market, those out there who can actually relate. I've gone to the market and I've bought beef and it's cold, and I knew that, and I asked customer, did you put this there? But no, I cannot sell all the cow in one day. So you can imagine that individual who is striving and trying to survive, especially now in this harsh economy. Let's quickly run to the health sector, for instance. Now, how would this particular shutdown of the national grid affect the health sector, especially when someone is in the operating room and there is no power? We
even talk of the elevators in many hospitals that we have.
Elevators.
We find nurses and doctors who died recently from using federal government elevators. So these are the sad reality. Go ahead, please.
These are the sad, I mean, let's look at it. Of course, we know what it is. Most of our doctors and nurses have actually, in quote and unquote, jackpot. Now, of course, isn't this laughable to see that our present need right now when it comes to the economy is not getting better? Now, the hospitals in which operations are being performed, individuals going to seek health medications, and everything is on hold. How do you think it's going to affect those, especially those in labor? Let's talk about maternity wards and someone who is in labor right now at this point and there is no light to perform the CS. And how do you think it's going to affect the healthcare?
I mean, these challenges that we are facing every day gives us to ask, why don't we have government? The essence of government was to make life and to create environment and make things easier for the people. So when you look at the economy of the country is actually on the messed up right now. The minister of the coordinating minister of economy was being interviewed recently, and he could not give a substantive effort of what the administration of Bola Ahmed Tinubu have been able to do for the 1 year. So you now go to the health sector, just as you pointed out. It's a quite very sad one. The ratio of doctors leaving the country and leaving our hospitals has been on the high side compared to 2020 to 2024. So when you look at the statistics, what is giving them the go ahead to leave is because of welfareism, not just welfareism, infrastructure.
True.
As you pointed out, some of the hospitals are left with no light, no source of electricity. They have to get on fuel or diesel to survive. And some of them, the government are not funding those operations so that they can be able to make a constant power supply and all of that. So what happens to people that are having an emergency unit that has to depend on a 24-hour standby electricity? I mean, in a climate country where things work, where you understand that government is in place, these are the things that ordinary we wouldn't have been coming to television as we are right now to be crying, because these are the basics of what government. You have to protect lives and properties of the people. Exactly. So the health sector is paramount in every administration. So we are having lackadaisical attitude by both the part of government and those stakeholders that are involved in those sectors, messing up the reality of what we're having now. So power is important. They should make it as a point of their duty to make sure that the moment where NLC even want to strike, there should be some essential services that should be excluded from this action. If you go to the airport today, they have resisted travelers from leaving their cities or to another city or leaving the country.
Wait a minute, Michael. If some institutions are exempted, how would their points be made?
Yeah, by that I mean you've created an environment where these are people that can substantially stand in to carry out those services at the point where you withdraw services of the
But don't you think there's going to be like a lapse or a loophole when it comes to other sectors performing and others are not? Because it's supposed to be, there's a unity, there's a togetherness when it comes to this.
Absolutely.
So if the NLC says to themselves, okay, fine, because of the endangerment that this will cause in our society and the economy, okay, the health sector, stand alone, continue with your work.
How would you feel if we lost the baby in the course of this strike today?
Bad.
How would we feel if we lost a patient who was rushed to the hospital? At the end of the day, there was no light today.
All right, Michael, do you think there's another way to get the attention of the government by going on this indefinite strike?
Yeah, we have always seen the point where governments all sometimes stay with deaf ears. The issue of strike didn't start today. We've followed NLC for over months right now since the administration came on board.
Very true.
They have been sounding this. Review this, look at this. They have been crying over time. So their actions, independent actions today, is not just about today. Over time, we heard, everybody, even the child in the secondary school, heard that on the 30th, 31st, if you do not meet up with the agreement, we'll embark on the strike. It was sounding very clear. Government will not tell us that they did not hear when the NLC were saying all of this. So the rush hour shouldn't even be considered. But in Nigeria, we often waiting when things escalate. That's when we want to start running at the scale. I'm aware that we may have lost 1 or 2, 3 persons in the course of these actions today. And this is just a very few statistics. What happened if federal government will not come to agreement within the next few days? It means that you've created a danger already in the sector of health for Nigeria. So what then will be the excess? Oh my God.
But I want to, critical. I have sat down and I've actually analyzed and I've said to myself, sometimes the government do not take the NLC, the TUC seriously. Because when we were on Global Morning, I made a point and I said, okay, let's look at the history. They go on 2 weeks strike, and then there's a warning strike. They've never gone all out to say we're going on an indefinite strike. Let's make our point known. Let us carry the placard. You always hear, this is the first time. So how are we sure? Now I'm saying it that I think this is a different technique that the NLC and the TUC are going when it comes to this particular issue, because it affects each and every one of us. There is no exclusion. But do you think this is a different route? And this route, do you think it's going to cause issues, or is going to douse the issue at hand right now?
I mean, the route followed by NLC right now, I mean, it is on their law. It's embedded with the provisions of the establishment of this body. I mean, we've all had since, many years ago, centuries ago, industrial action. It is a movement of industrial action that have given birth to even government institutions and creations of ministries and all of this, because these are things that they respond, due to this is why this was created and all of this. So the action today shows in reality, agreement of 5 years from 2019 to 2024 April, elapses. You've not considered, going back to review some of those things we'll be able to do.
Exactly.
These are people's lives. I mean, they have done a breakdown, just as I was speaking on the discourse. They are breakdown by NLC, that cost of accommodation, cost of transportation, cost of feeding, cost of this is why we've actually arrived at over 400,000 naira.
Exactly.
Federal government, come out and tell us how you've arrived at 60,000 naira. The only defense that federal government are giving is that we have increased it by 100%, meaning that 30,000 naira was the previous minimum wage. So adding another 30,000 naira is an 100% increase by the part of government. So, but are you looking at the reality of the country? Our life increased in a year by 100%. We've had the ripple effect of increase. Fuel was over 198 now.
Oh yes,
as a last
and
year,
now it's 600.
By now 600. So
and some other states are selling at the rate of 700, 800, 1,000.
As sad as it is right now, how can you even begin to imagine that kind of calculation? Because everything has doubled, not just double. I don't even know the right description to the reality of what Nigerians are facing right now.
I just gave an example when it comes to tomatoes. I said something. I said a basket of tomatoes as we speak.
Before was how much?
You can get a basket of tomatoes for as low as 30,000 naira.
As a den.
That's a very big basket. Some 25 if your bargain is good. Some 20 you can get. Some will even tell you 18, 15 when things were really, really good. But now, as we speak, 100,000 naira. And the bin, that very small bin, is going for, as we speak, as 2 days ago, it was 15,000 naira.
As a bachelor, I quickly wanted to cook something yesterday. So I went to buy a pepper at, I think, 500 naira. So I saw the quantity of pepper that was given at 500 naira. That was what we bought at 100 naira, not just even a year ago, like 2-3 months ago. So it shows the fact that, look at the model of what they use in measuring gari and rice, over 2,500 naira for a model of rice. For those that don't have capacity to buy a bag of rice, I mean, prior to this time, people used to get bag of rice, but right now families cannot even get bag of rice because it's about on the high side. So all of this is, the threat of life is actually written on the faces of Nigerians. So now that industrial action has been embarked by NLC and Nigerian workers, it's a more war for us, because everything that we've actually been experiencing, even on this high side, I don't know how we're going to breathe. I mean, even when the president was saying, allow the poor to breathe.
How are we going to breathe now?
Right now, I don't know, we are breathing from the nose or we have to breathe from the ear, because it's quite a very tough one for even businesses, especially businesses right now.
Especially small-scale businesses.
Small-scale businesses. I mean, how do you even imagine a company that, basically we're even depending on the particular funds to come in? How would they even be able to generate and sustain power within their offices and still meet up with the other expenses of salaries and all of that, and having to even meet up with, gains and profit of companies? So all of this is posing a lot of threat to Nigeria. So federal government must understand that if they are not creating jobs, they are not doing their best to creating employment opportunities for Nigerians, they should not in any way allow the private and the local SMEs, mean, to suffer due to some of their policies and insensitivity.
I wanted to ask you a question before we delve into the educational sector of our children, universities, how they are coping with all of these. Now, do you think the federal government do not hold the Nigerian populace in high regard? Because I feel if the federal government understood the pains that Nigerians are going through, a lot of people have died because they cannot afford to eat 3 square meals a day. A lot of families have tried to struggle. A lot of children are out of school as we speak. A lot of people cannot even go to work because they do not have the fare to do so. Do you think if the federal government has held the Nigerian populace and understood the cry of the Nigerian man out there who is telling you the high cost of living, please bring it down. The fuel subsidy, please let us think about it. There's a better approach, because most Nigerians felt there was no consultation. We only heard it when in the manifesto of the president when he was actually campaigning to be president that there's going to be removal of subsidy. And most people out there are saying it was not done, the approach was not nice. For as much as removal of subsidy is good, but there would have been an alternative. Now, with all of these things that we see, from protests here and there, to looting of warehouses, to the insecurity that we face as Nigerians, and of course the removal of subsidy, the high cost of living, all of these things that has happened before we got to this point, Michael, do you think the federal government has a lackadaisical attitude when it comes to the pains, the worries, the concerns of Nigerians? Do you think?
It is an issue of misplacement of priorities. What oftentimes we see in Nigeria has always been that very clear. This is a government that will rather go to buy more Lexus and Toyota bulletproof cars from members of the National Assembly. These are the people that will rather increase the number of ministers in appointment. These are the same administration and government that will find SS and people that have special assistants
pay so much tax,
pay so much, and having to drive so many expensive cars in the Federal Capital Territory and other major cities. These are the people that have estate buildings there and then and all of that. So you begin to ask, I mean, Nigerians are not fool. They are seeing all of these things every day. So the moment where we are finding someone who just went into a public office, you know, getting rich by 100% by all calculation of, total success, you may be able to put it. It gives room to wonder and ask and ponder. Do our leaders really means well for us as a people? Do they really mean well for the country?
True.
They have recently reverted to the old national anthem. Was that even a problem? Would that even solve the current problem that we're having? We are finding the presidency taking actions that are not in any way, you know, considering the people of the Nigerian people, the plight of the people first. Issues of withdrawal of subsidy removal was a good one, but wasn't a well-thought decision.
True.
This has given the pressure that we are finding in the market in every way today. These are things that structures ordinary would have been in place before the implementation. But we were rushed, government was in a rush and in a hurry to implement that decision. So it therefore gives room to the fact that whatever these governments are doing, the previous government were doing, look at the issue of look at what the previous government were doing, the issue of Mefele and all of that we're still having to drag with today in the courts. So they are not considering Nigerians before decisions. And the moment where Nigerians do not feel that whatever decision you are taking is not for their own interest, it does nothing in any way give them fantasy or whatever you're doing. So the reality is that government must pay attention to people's plight. Now people are looking for what to eat. They're not after about the bridges you are constructing. They're not after about Lagos, Calabar,
the national anthem that you're bringing back.
We're not even after the national anthem. We are not after all of this thing. What Nigerians, a common Nigerian wants to see is not even about what we paint on even on the papers or what you give this fantastic speeches and all of that. They want when they go to the market with their 5,000 naira, they can be able to buy something substantive for a family. I mean, with their 10,000 naira, they should be able to get something in the market.
Exactly.
I mean, the Vox Populi conducted during the 1 year of administration of Tinubu, a woman responded that even with 50,000 naira, you go to the market with 50,000 naira. It seems at the end of the day, you look at the back.
Someone stole from you.
Exactly. So that's the reality that we're finding. But I mean, a year ago, 50,000 naira was money that at least you could be able to buy some stuff and know that you went for shopping or you went to stock up. So what can a normal Nigerian do who still have to rely on the old his salary, his salary haven't increased, his income hasn't increased,
but
his expenses, his expenditures is actually on the high side.
Exactly.
So what happened to what economic dimensions and drawing will you draw to Nigerians that your life is better right now? So that's the reality.
That is
so
the
government
reality.
must pay attention to the reality. The reality is that people are hungry right now. There must be provision substantial. They did issues of making transfer to vulnerable, the poorest of the poor and all of that. How did this thing get down to the grassroots? Is it not the same politicians who were given this contract to do this, to deliver this, at the end of the day, they went back with these funds from the federal government? We've seen where state governors, they gave state governors rise and all those things to go back for subsidy, to give back to the people and all of that in a way of remedy and all of that. At the end of the day, the rise was, how many people got the rise? How many people are still eating the rise from that day that it was given till death? So the reality is that Nigerians want to buy their food.
And the thing is, if you look at it critically, Michael, there is no accountability, no remittance after this whole charade.
It has always been government contracts there and in, and that's why I said the moment where we cannot begin to arrest and lock up people face the issues of corruption in this country, we are not in any way close to what we want. So people still get to divert our funds for their personal use, misplacement of priorities. We are given funds. Ministries had signed this, federal government had signed this for you to do this. At the end of the day, you go about to do other B or C, leaving the option A. The intentions of government might be right, but sometimes the implementation of some of these policies are always very wrong and diverted. So the moment where we must begin to prioritize people-centric decisions, take people-centric decisions to reflect on the plight of the people, that's when Nigerians can be, as it stands now. Nigerians are losing confidence in the government institutions.
Losing, or some have lost.
At the moment where we lose completely, and you won't begin to wonder what may begin to happen in the country. So the government must urgently needs to know that people are not happy. If you go to the street, you will understand this.
A lot of people are not happy. Let's talk about the future leaders who are children who are in schools. And with this recent off and on epileptic light issues that we have now with the shutdown of the grid, how would students in higher institution or even in schools when it comes to primary, secondary, how would they face this education? How would they face their education with so much ease and with a very not so tense environment? When there is no light, how can they make their photocopy? Especially now that there are exams ongoing as we speak. There's still WAEC that is ongoing. So now, they have to print papers and all of that. And
even the practicals.
Even the practicals, how are they going to get by when it comes to all of these things?
It's in shambles. Educational sector, public sector, public education is in shambles right now.
Now, do you blame individuals who who prefer the quote and unquote the Japa? Why people want to Japa, even when they know that they have nothing that they can do abroad, but at least anyhow in the feeding palace, anyhow.
We will survive. We will survive
anyhow. We will survive.
Yeah.
I wanted to quickly. You want to say something? Mike, on a quick break.
All right, please go ahead.
All right, let's quickly go on a quick break. Of course, it's Inside Today on Global Television, and of course, we are talking about the closure of the national grid and the effect it has on Nigerians in this present economy. Do not go anywhere. The program continues shortly. You are welcome back, and if you're just tuning in, this is Inside Today, and we're looking at the shutdown of the national grid and the effect it has on the present Nigerian economy. And we mentioned and we said this shutting down of the national grid in Nigeria can have significant impacts on the economy and population level. When the national grid are shut down, it can lead to power outages and disruption in industrial activities, businesses and households. It will affect productivity and the economic growth. Now, this results in financial losses for businesses businesses and reduce income for individuals, ultimately impacting the overall economy negatively. Now, let us take a deep look at this. During power outages, many businesses and households resort to using generators, which are often powered by fuel like diesel, and we know it's petrol. Now, increased use of generator during grid shutdown can lead to the higher level of pollution. Due to the emissions from these fuels, the increased population can have detrimental effect on air quality, public health, and the environment as we speak. And we're just talking about businesses, the health sector, education sector. And we're going to move on, and I am not doing this alone. I have Michael Edikan, who is my colleague in the office, and he was at the labor ground, and he saw how indefinite strike action is ongoing. Okay, Michael Edikan. So just tell us a brief on what really happened and do you think this, of course, with the 60,000 naira for the Labour Party and the TUC is unrealistic when it comes to education, when it comes to health, when it comes to transportation, when it comes to survival in Nigeria as we speak. If you look at 65,000 naira, how much do you think, if we come to a particular road, that's the NLC, the TUC, and the Labour and the federal government coming, how much do you think the government can actually, that will look as it will have weight when it comes to giving this side and also this side coming to a particular meeting together in a crossroad? How much do you think the federal government should be reasonable enough to say, okay, fine, I might not give you 465,000 naira, and I know saying 60,000 naira is unrealistic. Let me give, what amount do you think, in your own opinion, and this is not Global Television's opinion, your own opinion, how do you think?
I mean, by both assessment, we've assessed responses and moved by other states. If you look at Edo State said 70,000.
Yes, 70.
I mean, so if the state government, but their capacity are ready to pay that. So it therefore means that your federal government must also take into consideration, how even the Edo State, came to...
They got to that point.
That figure. So at that moment, what happens to you? Because what the Labours are saying is that by your statistics, what are your calculations? What are the indices of how you arrived at 60,000? They have given them the blueprint of how they have arrived at 420,000, 459,000. So what happened to this consideration? So Labour should be able to, government should also understand that this is their demand, this is their intention. They are not in any way, they will not be silenced over if you said 80,000, if you said 90,000, if you said 100,000. I think for a must. I think by all indices of calculation, economic calculation, 100,000 naira minimum wage, you can be able to go. By that, you've given a sense of surviving and living to a worker, a Nigerian worker. A Nigerian worker. By that, because how our funds are generated, circulate in this country, is from them. Yeah. The civil servants are the ones who circulate government funds, because they are the ones that receive money from the government. They go back to patronize the SMEs. They go to patronize the private sectors and all of that. And all this. These are the chains of generation. Our money, circulated. So at the moment where these people, our hands are limited, you give, them to be deficient about purchase and all of that. So in the market, everybody are quite just sitting down looking at how tomorrow will look like and all of that. So 100,000 now to me might be realistic, maybe hard for the federal government, but it's realistic to the current economy reality, because by all calculations, it may shows that you are ready to understand that these people really matters to you. The Nigerian workers want to feel that you really care about us. They are not asking for cars. They're not asking for houses in different estates. No, they're not demanding for all of those things. They just said increase what we are earning. Just increase
what we are working for,
what we are contributing for. So if a senator of 4 years can go back with houses, can go back with vehicles, cars with a lot of figures multiplied by his detailed bank and all of that. So what happened to a worker for over 20 years? What happens to someone working for over 10 years? Nothing to show. They are not even asking of what they want to be left home at. They are telling you this is what we spend in a month. This is what we earn. So by increasing this, we can be able to survive with this. Because what we are currently getting is not in any way working. So by that increase of at least 100,000 naira minimum wage, it can give that sense of, that because it means that the lowest worker will earn 100,000 naira. This is someone that is going to work every day. This is someone that maybe has the children or that. This is somebody that has the need to pay for houses. And houses in the Federal Capital Territory and other cities you see are actually on the high side. So it is not easy to survive with the 30,000 naira. So by that, it may give some sense of, but government, you know, I don't know their thoughts and their
because sometimes if you look at it critically, the 60,000 naira in which the federal government is so unrealistic compared to the present Nigerian economy what we face right now.
Absolutely. I think that's what really have angered this strike.
Yes.
I mean, even the intervention by the National Assembly yesterday, the Senate President and the Speaker, it still was on deadlock because the other thing was also what they want to hear is that you've moved from this 60,000 now. Come to that point. At least Nigerians are watching. Even other workers will get to fight back if federal government says 100,000 and the leadership of NLC are still insisting on 400,000. I think there will be that issue right now. But right now, even the workers are happy for the strike action. So it's not just about the leadership decision. It's about the plight and the understanding of the worker, because everywhere is compliant. The lockdown. I mean, I was able to look at the Joint Monitoring Committee going about different ministries and parastatals. So the lockdown is on the high side. Total lockdown and compliances by every ministry. It shows that all the workers are tired and are in total agreement. There's no resistance by whatever. Sometimes we normally receive resistance when people when they want to lock up a particular ministry. But this time, everybody are cooperating because even the security agencies are also feeling the weight of this issue. So it means that if these are considered, even their wages too will be considered. So
of course,
it's everybody's business.
Of course. Now let's talk about the implication when it comes to the lockdown, when it comes to industries, and of course the ministries. What are the implications for people out there wondering? They're just home, they're resting. So are there any implications?
Everything is on hold. It therefore means that nothing can work. Policies of government, you know, contract of government, project of government, everything is on a standstill.
Yes.
No implementation. So everything is just on a standstill, and you still have to pay them their salary. I mean, this doesn't stop you from paying them their salary. So they are depriving the federal government because they're not going to work to fast track a lot of other issues of government. So
or by the facilitate
moment, because even ASU, who are meant to be in the classroom, have also joined the strike. So it means that even the universities university students will have to get to wait again for another. We don't know how long.
And some schools are even on strike.
So the reality is quite very visible right there. So the moment where these things are not fast tracked and the government see need to immediately call the union to have a move from that 60,000 to something substantial, it may be a very hard one, and it's having a ripple effect on every government institution because nothing absolutely is working right now. Nigeria have lost at the end of the day. You see the statistics of what Nigeria have lost just for today because of this issue.
Exactly. Now let's look at job opportunities in the cause of the shutdown of the grid. What do you think it's job opportunities for individuals out there, and how does it affect job opportunities right now as we speak?
It's pushing a lot of people to be jobless. It's also creating room for people to do whatever they can do to survive, because at that moment you've given an intense pressure on the private sector, just as we were extracting. So what happens to what they were selling? What happened to their businesses that were just struggling to survive? So the moment you've pushed them out, I mean, you've pushed out electricity, forcing them to go buy diesel at even the funds that they were just trying to preserve for their businesses, pushing them to, spend more on fuel just to get to power, their services and all of that. So it therefore put a lot of people on that level of not doing anything and pushing a lot of people out of job. And the increase cannot be there. There's no room for that increase by government. So you're now giving a lot of pressure on the federal government, giving pressure on criminality, because people now are forced to go to do one thing or the other just to survive. Because one thing is static for a human being. A human being must always survive. So how he survives is always by him and his creator.
It could be detriment.
I mean, so it is having a quite very sad effect on the people
extremely,
right now.
Extremely. Let us talk about the agricultural sector now. Of course, it's one part that it concerns you, it concerns the little, it concerns each and every one of us. What are the implications when it comes to the closure of the national grid in the agricultural sector now? What implications will it have on this present Nigerian economy?
Yeah, there are people who have a lot of gardens that they have to power. I mean, they have to power, they have electricity, they need for water to garden up. I mean, to make sure that their farms produce are well preserved and all of that. So the moment where you force people not to have these access to electricity, it therefore means that we're gonna have people that are into broiling and all of that. Some people that are into tomato productions and
the sachet tomatoes,
and all of that. So it gives room to that low production. And the moment where we are having high demand, because everybody are going to the market to buy things at the end of the day. So the moment where we to give low production, it will have ripple effect on the market. And now the fuel that we will have on the market will be on the high side, because the market trader will now say, oh, the demand is high, but the quantity and the supply is actually low. So it therefore gives them room to increase what they sell. So thereby still putting pressure on the economy, putting pressure on the naira, putting pressure on what we earn just to be able to survive. So it has a ripple effect in everything, because even the agricultural sector is one of the mainstream of Nigeria's economy away from oil. So people have to, and now federal government don't understand this. So the moment where you're making blackouts, to red everywhere, it means that people will start invading people's farm to go get away with some of what they were able to do, because sometimes you see some of these farms are electrified in night, so that the security agents, the security local security that they have, they can provide basic service of protecting whatever they are given. So by this, it therefore means that the production will be on the low side, and the businesses and farmers that has to depend on big machines and agricultural equipment just to power their farms and all of that, we're now forced to go get fuel, go get diesel just to power those equipment to be able to work. So how would they be able to do that when they have a very low budget of what they can be able to finance to invest on, and now coming to the market, and how they're gonna move those things right now to the towns and to the cities just to be able to make a sale. So government has to be able to subsidize all of this, and the only way they can subsidize all of this is by restoring back the issues of national grid and making sure that there's electricity in the long run of the national strike, because the indefinite strike as we speak right now is not looking like something that will be off tomorrow. It's not even looking at something that will be off the next tomorrow. So what happens if it gets to take for a week? So a lot of businesses will crumble, production, market, everything will be on the high side.
Let's put a lot of businesses, markets and all of that aside. Let us talk about the well-being and the mental health of Nigerians in this present harsh economy. Of course, we've heard there was a story I read online about a woman who couldn't afford food for her children. So all she did was pack up her kids, went to the police station, dropped her children, and went back home, committed suicide because she couldn't afford food. Now, looking at the mental health and the well-being of Nigerians who feel nothing is happening, there's no light in the tunnel, things are just going downwards. The federal government, nothing to write home about. We've been on this industrial warning strike since last month, since May 1st, which we're all aware. And now we're in June. This is June 3rd, and nothing is happening. Now, for an individual who is out there, who is sitting down and saying things are not going forward, it's better to just end it all. Let us look at the mental health of Nigerians in this present health economy. What effect do you think, and what implications do you think this particular shutdown of the national grid can cause?
There is a funny quote that many Nigerians normally use, that if you're passing through a lot, I'm just coming out from a lot. It means that everybody are actually getting the pressure exactly on the high side. So if you are going through a lot, if you are going through a lot, I'm just coming out of a lot, because so you just have to have a fair share of what we are facing. So the reality is it is sad, because the moment where you wake up every day in this country, we have a lot of problems. Me and you are broadcasters, so we know what we see on headlines every day. It's always traumatizing. It's always a sad one. We look at those stories and that it seems the efforts of the government and every stakeholders are not in any way getting better. It's always as if every day things get worse, day by day. But it's not meant to be so. We want a situation where Nigerians will wake up and feel the sense of the pride of being a Nigerian. The moment where every day you present an opportunity for someone to leave this country, everybody will be calling on you, will be lobbying, a lot of people are even finding another route to travel out of this country if they cannot get visas and all of that.
So desert, first, through Libya.
There are several routes a lot of Nigerians are using right now to leave. So you're putting a lot of pressure on that. And the moment where some of our people, young people who are meant to contribute to the economy, are finding it very hard, and then they are leaving. We know what happens when we had issue of slave trade. So the moment where some of these people are being used to go build other economy of the nation. So you are leaving your own country at danger. So the risk is actually facing all of us. So the government must know that Nigerians are disappointed by everything that they are doing. So the only thing that can make sense to them right now is about the thing that you are doing things that really reflect what they want. So the mental health of a common Nigerian, is sick, because you wake up to face the reality, and the reality is biting out. how many people can really boast of being rich in this country? So the statistics is quite low with the population of over 200 million population. So how many people can you substantiate to be in the rich class? How many people can you substantiate to be the poor? So
exactly. There's no middle class anymore. Is it that the rich or the poor?
Absolutely. For you to even be in that middle class right now, you are still poor. If you call yourself
if you earn 300 and something thousand,
even if it's 1 million as we speak right now, I mean, the reality is quite very. Because if you look at the expenditures of everybody in the family, so we're not just ready to go into that. But
yes, please.
But the point is, the mental health of Nigerians is actually. I mean, you wake up every day, look at the issue of fuel pressure. So you are scared that. I know how I feel if I want to get fuel when we have fuel scarcity in this city too. You wake up looking for where you'll be able to get fuel. So you put a lot of pressure on Nigerians not to even sleep well at night. I remember sometimes people have to wake up at 4 a.m., 3 a.m. just to go stand at the queue to get fuel.
Yes.
These are the mental issues. And so a moment where someone is going to the market and he or she has 10,000 now and the person is busy calculating. At the end of the day, it's sickening. It's worrying because somebody is not eating well. So we'll have rise of malfunction, maltreatment and all of that. So the reality is quite very hard and sad for us in the mental health. So we need more therapists to engage so that they can be able to see how they can be engaging Nigerians and testing their senses if it's still working well. You know,
we're still talking about electricity, and let's look at the access to reliable electricity play in improving the life of Nigerians. Now, I think the federal government understands that we're used to 5 hours electricity and we're happy, or 6 hours and we're happy, but they do not understand that there is just something that it does. It helps to douse down the challenges which you face. When you come home and you see light, there's this sense of, you know, this breath of fresh air. But unfortunately, you know that at least your soup will be cold till the next day and it won't get spoiled. But I think with all of these, do you think there is a better approach than shutting down the national grid? That was just, do you think it was the right move by the Labour Party? The Labour
Congress. Yeah, the moment where, I mean, when they want to take an action, we were explained that earlier, they take action so that they can have an effect. You know, the government can also feel their presence.
Yes.
You know, so it has been a well-thought decision by NLC to embark on this strike. So it's not everybody have to obey. You know, it's the highest body because even TUC and all of that have to join them to embark on this strike. So it's an action taken by, you know, just for them to demonstrate their anger, their pains, and their plight. So the national grid, because even the hospitals, the health sectors, nurses and doctors are out of the hospital as we speak right now. So the moment where we said earlier that we will definitely have people who have lost their loved ones in the course of this strike right now.
Very true.
So when you look at that issue, you now look at the issue of the national grid. So the national grid is not even considered because to them, yes, it's an essential it's essential services for Nigerians, but it also has to do with the fact that everybody has to feel this because even the rich right now will have to go back to spending more to fill their houses, to fill, you know, their establishment and all of that and all of. So it is an action well thought by NLC so that the government can feel their presence and all of that. So not that government does not know, you know, strikes of NLC. They know how it looked like. But what happened that you needed to wait till this? Look at what you will lose as a result of, you know, your silence and your improper negotiations to the table. So because what you're bringing to the table is not in any way moving the NLC to come into agreement with you. So the deadlock agreement between them will continue until they have, you know, something very substantial for Nigerian workers.
And you know, I know we're going back and forth in all of this, but I feel these policies, you know, do you think there was a better way to help prevent the negative impact by shutting down the national grid on Nigerians in this present harsh economy? Do you think this was the only way? Yeah,
they would have been other ways. I mean, other ways of providing electricity, you know, I mean, government should also understand that away from, you know, direct electricity, issue of solar, you know, how as government makes solar affordable, you know, so the moment where this is actually going on, you know, we can be able to rely on other options just to, you know, power our houses, power our businesses and all of that. So solar movement in the country has not really, you know, been strong. It's very few Nigerians have access to getting solar. So when there's a need to also have a plan B. So the moment where even sometimes we normally hear of national grid collapse away from even the shutdown because of the strike. So what happens to having something to stand by so that the moment where we do not have electricity, one will begin to have a backup plan. So these are also a call for government that you know, this action should also make you to plan well, you know, if you really want the sustainability of Nigeria's economy. So we can always have something to fall back to.
All right, Michael Adikan, thank you so much for being a part of Insight today.
Pleasure,
It's always an exciting time.
Very exciting time.
Always an exciting time.
Absolutely.
All right, let me just quickly wrap it up now. And of course, we know it is essential to maintain a stable and reliable national grid system to ensure continuous power supply, support economic activities, and reduce pollution levels in Nigeria. Not forget that in all of this, the shutdown of national grid will lead to high pollution, which is detriment to one's health. So we pray, Michael Adikan, that this strike action is called off with immediate effects, right?
Yes, absolutely.
All right, with that, I have to wrap it up on the program. Michael Adikan, thank you so much for being
thanks,
and thank you for, in short notice, you came up and you showed up I was
available to take on you now.
Thank you so much. And with that, I have to wrap it up, and thank you all so much for being a part of Insight today. I am Jumai Manson. Join me same time tomorrow. Bye-bye.